welcome back to Behind the Gloss. I'm Shakai Monet, and today I have a very special guest, my wonderful friend, Jasmine. Hi, Jasmine. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for talking to me. I wanted to talk to you because I think when we first met, we just kind of I don't know, can I say it was like kismet? It was just
Yeah, like vibed.
yeah, we related so much.
Yeah,
Almost feel like we had like a parallel life in so
yeah,
many aspects. But what I love about you is you're very driven and like resilience and just all these things kind of like you get what you want.
I
So
appreciate that.
yeah, like today I wanted to talk about control in the sense of us as women taking control of our life because I feel like, especially in today's society, I think a lot of people are freaking out,
Yeah,
feeling like they don't have control. But yeah, when it comes to control, I think we just have to start by defining it. So yeah, like what does it mean to take full control of your life?
yeah, definitely I can dive into that. So, one thing I do want to say is whenever I feel like I'm in the most control, I feel like I'm following my desires. And so, I don't necessarily believe that I'm in full control of anything. But I do think that there's a difference between following someone else's desires and dreams and getting caught up in that narrative and then kind of aligning with yours. And so like for example, one way this might show up, like today I was walking on the seawall in Vancouver, and I noticed like when I'm walking by certain people that like I can feel their energy, and I kind of like I'll notice my body language immediately shift when I can feel someone's like really confident or really loud or dressed really, really well, right? So I notice those things and I check myself and I say like I will not bend to their will. So like I force myself to stay in composure or to like stay straight or to like stay moving forward, and then they notice that. So it's not that I'm not like it's not like my body doesn't want to bend to other people's will or follow other people's dreams. I still have those tendencies. I just become aware of it and try to like stay in my own lane. I just believe you're either like, this the typical phrase like a creator or a consumer. So either I can be creating something or consuming someone else's. But yeah, I can go deeper into that too, but that's kind of where I want to start.
I mean, please do, because that's so cool and fascinating. And this is like the control that I wanted to talk about. Like, not necessarily trying to control other people or like outcomes in the world, but take control of your life and go after what you want. And yeah, that's interesting because I do think I naturally, like when I meet people, you can kind of tell if they, I don't know if like dominant is a good person, but they just have like an assertive personality. And yeah, I think I'm kind of like, whoa, like I think I do want to kind of bend. So it's
Yeah.
interesting that you can even like feel that energy just walking down the street. So yeah, if you want to, you can go into it a bit more.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's important to going back to the first point about like what is control? What does it mean to control? And like for me that means like following my desires. And so I believe that like at any moment like we are a combination of all the thoughts we've experienced, the ideas we've experienced, the places we've been, the people we've met. So it's never like we're in our own lane. Like even the term like self-made, right? Like I feel like we're always made by everything around us. And sometimes that can show up like for example, I have my own business and I also work in an industry called high ticket sales and I work in finance. Like my grandma also worked in finance. My mom's sister also worked in finance. So it's like that probably shaped me, right? Like or like my mom moved around a lot when she was younger, and then she moved me around a lot, and then I moved around a lot traveling, right? So it's like sure, like part of it is like I chose the places I was going. I chose like the job I have because it was within the boundaries of what I desired for a work environment, but I was also shaped by my family. I was also shaped by like my past experiences. So everything's always working together, and that's why with like anything that's about perception or mindset, we can look at it from so many angles because I could tell the story that like, well, my mom had this trauma and like was trying to escape and moved around all the time, so then I have that trauma. But it's like I don't have to frame it that way. It can also be like I was young and curious and exploring and like, I was going to all these places because I was taught a really strong foundation of how to adapt to change. And so I know that's like a little broad, but yeah, to me, it's like everything I do is an experience of everyone else. I can just shape my lens on it and my perspective on it and then go from there. So it's like if I just have all these experiences and then I share my specific point of view, great, that's me being in control of my life.
Ooh, I like that and how you were reframing and it's that perspective. Because I was gonna ask, and I think you answered it. Like, how do you know if you're in control, if you're just doing like what other people want you to do, or maybe like
Mhm.
you've been influenced? Because like you, I've moved around kind of bit,
Yeah.
and then when I got to decide where I wanted to go, I did want to move around. And even for me, I'm like, okay, wait, do I want to move around because I'm curious? Am I running away from something?
Yeah.
Is it just all that I've known? So, yeah, I guess how do you kind of distinguish between the two? Do
Mhm.
you have to, or can you just live
Yeah,
life?
so the first thing requires like a slight reframe of like it being like, this is bad because I'm doing it out of trauma, or this is good because I'm doing it out of being in control. Because what is actually true is that at any moment, everything is happening. Both are true at any moment, or typically the truth lies somewhere in the middle. And so it can both be that I'm doing this because this was hard for my mom and I traveled all the time. And it can also be true that I'm doing it from curiosity. So the first reframe has to be that like, and anything we're doing or achieving or experiencing, it's never necessarily bad or good. It's just a learning lesson. And so for me, I was gonna say, like if I'm following desire, I just allow what comes to me in my head. Like for example, recently I've had a hyperfixation on like looking at vans, like the really expensive like luxury vans that people like live in and they'll spend like 100 or $150,000 like renovating. And like I have no desire to live as like someone who lives in a van, but for whatever reason, there's something in me that like wants to explore this. And so I've just been letting myself like have fun with it, like looking at how to design them and like going on Pinterest. And then last night I was having a conversation with my partner Justin, and we were talking about how like when we get our like next place that we buy, I was like, I'm wanting a house instead of an apartment. And, he might be helping support with some of that. But then we talked about, well, maybe I could be the one that supports with getting like a van like that or, getting our next car. And so we were kind of envisioning this. So it's like, it ended up being something full circle that it wasn't necessarily like a whole lifestyle change I needed to make and become this nomad and live in a van. But it ended up being something where I was really excited about and then having an excited conversation with my partner and us talking about our future. So to me, like that is control. It's following that desire in my head and being in control of like where I take that versus like maybe letting him be like, oh, like, well, this is the future that I want, or this is the thing that I want, and letting myself shrink for someone else's vision. But instead of voicing it and finding a way to piece them together.
Yeah, that's so important. I think every relationship is about compromise, and this is exactly why I wanted to have this conversation about control because I feel like more so than not, a lot of women maybe are shrinking themselves. So before we talk about that, I guess like any advice for when we are trying to take control and follow like our curiosity and desires and we're met with resistance. And is it different if like, you know, I guess it's different if it's like a parent and child, but like your partner is like, I'm trying to build a life with you, but if you want to go this way, I want to go this way. Like, and you're not trying to compromise,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
what
There's
do you
like,
do?
yeah, definitely. There's so many layers to that. Like one layer is like just throughout any relationship, and I'm starting to see this as I've been with my current partner like 2.5 years now. There's like certain things that we might have like muted or kind of paused or suppressed for part of our relationship that now we have time and space to express. For example, this is like a really positive thing, but like my partner really loves music festivals and like that's not my thing. Like I just never will. Like I love a luxury retreat. Like I love to be like alone in silence with 5 to 10 to 20 people. Whereas he loves, like going out into the forest, camping, being around hundreds of people, crowds. And that's okay. But like we've had our first conversation where it's like he wants to go back into that world and I don't. What does that look like? And so it's not necessarily that it has to be where like I'm like, no, you can't do that because I don't want to do it and I'm in control. And it also doesn't have to be like him being like, I'm going to do this exactly how I would do it when I was single and like do it my way because I'm in control. It became a compromise where it's like, okay, well, you're going to do it this way, but you're going to go when you want, do it how you want, but like there's some rules and restrictions so that we both feel comfortable. So that's kind of how I feel about relationships. Like there's always going to be things that evolve over time and doors that open that we might have consciously or subconsciously closed because of the chapters that we were in. And then going back to the question about shrinking as well, like so like that's one way that like yeah, I think it's really important to make yourself heard. Like I used to be a dating coach and I did that for about 4 years, and I found something that I even used to do in some relationships. Like I'm not perfect just because I was, supporting other people. It's like I would bend to someone's will if I found that they were like a bigger energy than me, or I was like, oh, this, I would just kind of like fall into the laps of some things. And shrink myself, and instead of shrinking, making your voice known is actually really attractive. Like I believe that women should be the boundary setters in relationships and not men. And so like that was like a really polarizing statement. Like obviously it's nuanced, but what I meant by that is like a lot of times women are like, okay, yes, let's move here, let's do this, like I will, be this person for you, when in reality a lot of times, like not 100% of the time, but sometimes like men do need you to be like, no, like that's not okay for me. No, I don't want to do that. Like, no, we're going to do this instead. And I think that gets lost on a lot of people because of the narratives or the movies or the religious things or Disney or whatever it is that shapes us, making it seem like you should be docile and like whatever. And I think Mom Talk or like Mormon Wives, and we were talking about trad wives and stuff. These are all great examples. Like, or Mom Talk's a great example of these Mormon wives like sticking up for themselves and like standing up to the patriarchy, making their own money, but also still staying feminine while they do it.
I love that. And I do agree. And I don't know, because I feel like I've been in those circles. Like I got out, y'all, so I'm good now. But I think it was very much like, women should kind of be seen, not heard, or it was made to me that like maybe men would be attracted to someone who was submissive. And everyone that listens to the podcast know like I'm trying to read my Bible, be a good steward of the word. And it talks about being submissive in there. And I'm like, like what exactly is that? And so I guess, yeah, like is being submissive like a lack of control, or it just a different form of control? Like is it
Yeah,
something?
that's such a deep thing, because even like I have friends, like guy friends, that have like gone on a journey. I feel like we might have talked about this before, but like in a personal conversations, but like I have a friend that he gets really convicted in whatever he's doing, whether it's a job or going back to his roots and his religion, like a new workout plan, like he just gets convicted and he can convince everyone else around him really loudly, really passionately, really like assertively without being like annoying. I don't know how to describe it, but he has that assertive energy we were talking about. And this is a few months ago we were chatting, and right now he's like really, deep in Christianity and like wanting to get back on that. And he was just like really firm in his belief that like women should take care of children and like men should have the relationship with God. And he was just like, and that's how it is. And so, I hear what you're saying on like feeling like when you're reading certain Bible verses, or that can be a narrative that's relate in that way. And also something that I think about when I think about like I do have a great relationship to the earth. Like I'm not yet a mother yet, but like when I see other children, like I have a natural like loving mother energy, and kids feel comfortable around me at restaurants, at cafes, like just in general, I have that frequency of that phase of life. I think all women do, but it just is
Yeah.
about how we express it. But the point is, like, I do have some of those like natural feminine tendencies to like want to be like that trad wife trend, right? I love cooking at home. Like, I love nourishing the home and decorating and all those things. But I think, and I'm kind of pivoting here, but I think where a lot of power lies is knowing that you can do those things, or maybe submit in a certain way, but still having control of your health, but still having control of your finances, but still having control of your community. Because I think a lot of times we're willing to give up something in one area if it means benefiting in another. And I just see a lot of women that struggle with staying in control or following their dreams, or, what is that line between submissive and dominant when they feel like they're lacking in other areas. They'll like fold into like a dynamic that might not be best fit for them. And also, there isn't anything wrong with being submissive or dominant. Like, I think there's certain situations where I'm dominant in my relationship, and then certain dynamics where I'm submissive. Like, it doesn't have to be like one or the other all the time. And there's also like, there's the whole tantric world of what those things mean, and how to play with those archetypes in different ways too. But yeah, I hope that answered the question. I kind of went on a little bit
No,
of a rant there.
I think it did because I wholeheartedly agree. Like I think when it comes to being submissive, quote unquote, it is like as long as you're doing it at certain times and like you said, have your health and stuff. Side note, I do want to talk to your friend about the Bible because nowhere in the Bible does it say that only men have a relationship with God, okay? I can I don't know the specific scriptures, but I know that Jesus was talking to women.
Right,
The girl that saw that the tomb was empty when Jesus arose on the third day was a woman.
right,
So let's not get that twisted.
right.
But anyway, like again, I do feel like unfortunately a lot of like religious like people, I guess I can say, kind of fall into, oh no, like women have to be submissive and submissiveness looks like this. And same with like the trad wives, and it's such a trend at the moment.
Yeah, something I was thinking about too, and I had a note on this. I was like, to me, like a trad wife or like the trend is about slowing down, being present, creating nourishing meals and environments, not necessarily giving up financial security or community or, those other things that make us feel connected and in control in our lives. Again, going back to my original definition of like control is desire, it's like I can be present with my kids and still have desires. I can be present and like cooking all the time and still be aligned with a community that allows me to expand and grow. I can be at home and not being the breadwinner, and still, if I have a partner that's nourishing my desires or, allowing investing in me, I can still have control over my destiny. Like it doesn't have to correlate with like doing those things and not being in control. But I think too, like it's because mentally we think of like the archetype of the 1950s housewife who was like at home and had none of their own money, or maybe it was even before the 1950s because at one point women started going back to work after the war. But yeah, it's just like it's in our brains that we associate those things with lack of control because of how it used to be, not how it necessarily is. And even a lot of times the trad wife influencers that we see are making money from social media. So, they're not in control of their lives. And also it's just normal during conservative times and political times for there to be these movements or more energy focused on these things, whether or not it's, yeah, regardless of the subtext.
No, again, I agree because, yeah, my concern with the quote unquote trad wife was, is that message being clear that, well, these women, one, they are getting money, like when they're like a super
Yeah.
influencer. And, like I would hope that in their relationship, they are talking with their partner about the finances. And I think, like with control, I feel like there's also like choice into that. And it's like, no, to some extent, I'm choosing this. Like I'm not being forced into it. So again, I worry that with these trends that happen to be more conservative, I just don't want to lose like, no, women still have a choice and a voice in all the things. But even with that being said, I know with women, there's been a lot of, what do you call it? Kind of that question of, can women have it all? Because you're talking about, kind of having natural desires to be with children and things, but,
Yeah.
children can take over your whole life. So I guess any advice or if there's
Yeah, I
anything
think
out
where
there,
my
yeah.
brain went when you were originally saying that, this isn't a direct answer to the question, but it made me think like first generation women in the office is totally different than second generation women in the office, which is totally different than third generation women in the office because you have a buildup of that burnout of the shifts in the nervous system. And I think that now we're one, two, three, four, however many generations into that. I think probably like three if we're talking about offices versus work. Um, our bodies are different now. Like when it was first generation, you had the foundation of like your mom being nurturing or maybe having healthier foods growing up, of your body being able to bounce back, of having that nuclear family. But also we could go into the statistics of how maybe some of that isn't true. But if we're assuming that, right, I believe that our bodies change over time. So like even for me, like I was doing all these things. I've lived in 5 countries. I've had networking groups everywhere. I've been high achieving, but also having a lot of fun while I do it. Even now, like I make a lot of money, but I only work 2 hours a day. I've created a life in which I have like passive income through what I do, and so like, it's it's interesting. But the point I was trying to make with all of that is like I've recently gone through something where I've had a huge like hiccup with my nervous system where it's forced me to like slow down. It's forced me to like do those things that like trad wives really appreciate. And for me, that's why when I look at the trend, I'm like, oh, like I see it as something that's reminding us to nourish our bodies again, nourish our nervous system so that the next generation can be a little bit more regulated because we have gone through a massive shift in technology and technological advancements in the 20th and 21st century, and our bodies having to rapidly adapt to that at the same time that it could be a conservative trend, it's also a reminder to go back to our roots and to slow down a bit. And I think that's why I love it. And I've adapted a lot of those tendencies, even though I work in finance, even though I make a lot of money, even though I'm, following my desires and doing things. I still live a life like that. Like I wake up and I have a hot tea with lemon. I don't drink coffee anymore. Like I walk up in the seawall and meditate. I, make all three meals every day, 80% of the time. And it's not to me about control or lack of or being submissive. It's about health.
I love that. And that's the most important part. Like, healthy. Like, are
Yeah.
you healthy? And again, because I heard someone kind of, I think it was just in a comment section,
Yeah.
because I think it was one of those YouTube things like trad wives versus women who work or whatever.
Mm.
And then someone made the point that, like, I know I can classify myself as being this quote unquote generation. My mom did work. She worked hard. She was
Yeah.
in the military, like high ranking. I'm really proud of her. But
Yeah.
flip side, she missed mommy, I love you, but she
Right.
missed a few soccer games.
Right. Right.
And then for me, like now, I still want to work, but I do find myself wanting to work from home so that I can be with the kids. And
Yeah.
I think again, it's just like generational kind of like
Yeah. And I
the effects.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know if anyone or any of your listeners watch, what's the show? Vanderpump Rules. I'm like obsessed with it. But there's a girl on it named Stassi, and she's like got her own brand and podcast, like all these things. And she has a book that she talks about like how you can't have it all. And she has two kids, and she talks about how like there's phases of life where like there's a phase where maybe she's back in reality TV or super famous and like has a nanny and support. And then there was also a phase where she was like with her kids, like super present. Or there's phases where like her husband gets to like shine. And so it's like she was like you can't have it all the time. It's like there's phases for things. And like even though I'm sitting here talking about like the mother archetype, if like my friends that are moms were listening to me right now, they'd be like, you don't understand the pain of, a kid waking up in the middle of the night and all of that. And I don't, right? Like I don't actually have children yet. So for me to be saying these things is only from the perspective of someone who doesn't yet have children. I'm specifically and exclusively talking about the archetype of the mother and not mothering one child until they're, grown. And so to that tone, it's like I don't want to speak too much on like motherhood because I'm not there yet, but I also hear you too on like being like, yeah, my mom was the same. My mom worked a lot too, and like um, I'm sure that shaped both of us in ways that are conscious and subconscious.
It's just interesting. Like, again, I don't think anyone ever told me like what to want, but even with, I don't know, marriage and things, it's like, oh, like I do want to be married. And I have to sit with myself and be like, why? Like, where did this desire come from? But again, you
Yeah,
have
I feel you
like,
on that exploration. I always wonder the same things too. And I think because I've like, and we both have, traveled, explored places, things like that, but like I've gotten to an understanding, and we were chatting about this when we were having dinner that one night. I was like, I don't know where I'm going and I don't know where I came from, but like what I do know is like the stories that I'm told. Like there's like an extra layer to that. Like I do know like the stories my mom has told me about her childhood or my mom's mom, my grandma, or sometimes I tap into like spiritual work and practitioners that believe they can channel the energy of ancestors and like what their past experiences were. And so it's like I am those stories. Um and those things live in my body. And going back to like how that relates back to health too, it's just like I'm at this phase where I'm like, oh, like I think there's a lot of emotional things I hadn't processed in my body that I didn't know were there. I thought that I was like free and whatever until I had this like nervous system dysregulation that's like not really explainable on tests. It's like, oh, like there are things that live in our body. There's that book, it's called What My Bones Know or The Body Keeps the Score, that talk about how these experiences going back to the mother do impact us. But yeah, I trailed off there.
no, I love it because again, health is wealth. And yeah, I would say I think before you try to take control of your life or whatever, definitely have a moment to yourself to be like, what do I really want? Like why? Like try to process trauma, I guess. But again, we keep talking about women and like moms and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And unfortunately, I do kind of feel like it is mainly women who quote unquote shrink themselves
Mhm.
and maybe have, I guess, what we could perceive as a lack of control. So, yeah, like, why do you think it's mainly women, or do you think women are the ones that are struggling with taking control? Is it something we have to take?
Yeah, so interesting. So even to me, I wouldn't say that I ever feel like going back to my definition of control being claiming desire, following desires, or aligning with desires. I never feel like I'm taking control, even that language would be very like patriarchal in tone,
Yeah,
right?
like
Like
aggressive.
taking or
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like so for me it's more about aligning with like or just I don't know, it feels like a poof of like an idea and I just like go with it and if it makes me feel good. But what I was gonna say too, feeling like um, women shrinking or not following their desires and therefore not being in control based off my definition, I think it's like a few things that come up, like just naturally, like religious ideas, like those narratives and how they shape us. My family's Catholic, and like I notice that I've become a lot more when I'm in a relationship, I become a lot more conservative than when I'm single. Like I fall into those ideas, or like I notice my partner taking on the traits of like his parents or his dad or his mom and how they acted in relationships whenever he's in a monogamous relationship. And those traits don't show up when we're like single and free and fun. They show up when we're confronted with or indoctrinated into a system, and then we get stuck in that narrative. And so a lot of times it can be the narratives that surround us depending on like what we identify with. So like even though I'm not Catholic or practicing Catholic, um, I still notice myself being conservative, even though I'm so free, even though I have really open beliefs. I have really open things, but it's just I don't know, it's a tendency as I get older. The other thing to that is like I think if we don't have a good baseline of health, wealth, or community, there's a gap that we naturally feel. And so then all of our energy just gets consumed, whether we're consciously aware of it or not, into fueling that. Or our desires or our mind is teaching us how to be healthier, how to build wealth. I don't mean being a millionaire. I just mean like having financial stability or building community. And once those things are balanced, or at least two out of three, our mind naturally opens up and has more creative energy, more curiosity. I notice it immediately if I'm having like an off day with my current injury, then like I notice I'm less creative and don't have energy. Versus when I'm having a good day, I can think and be creative. Similar to like money, if I feel financially secure, it's a lot easier to like make decisions than when I'm not. But that's not to say that I haven't done, explored, been curious, followed my desires or been in control in phases of life where I wasn't super financially secure or that I didn't have the community, but I had the health, right? So it's like, as long as I think a couple of the things are there, it's easy to follow your desires because they just naturally come. But in order to build that relationship and that willpower to follow them, it's about the little things. Like one of my coaches, or mentors rather, I did like a 1 year program with them last year, and they always said like, if you're starting the journey of like following your desires, like every day do one thing you know you need to do, like I don't know, going on the walk or going to the gym, and then do one thing that brings you joy, even if it's like you're on a diet but you want the croissant. It's like just get the croissant every day for a week and like allow your body to like do what it desires, and it's gonna shift out. It's like sometimes I'll crave a scone for 3 days and then I'm just done craving the scone. Like I'm not gonna gain 20 pounds because I had three scones, you know? It's like that's like a silly example, but it's about finding that curiosity so that you can follow the desire more and it gets bigger and then therefore you're in control versus not.
Interesting, because I don't even know like where exactly I want to go after, because I do agree with the language, like taking control. I'm like, is it, but then as you were talking, I'm like, am I actually giving control? Because when I do feel, like not financially stable or, I'm not healthy, I do
Yeah.
think that then I
Well, let's
start
talk about
to.
this. What do you think? What's your definition of like control? Like, what does it mean for you to be or to not be submissive? What does it mean for you to be or not be in control?
I think control is similar to what you said, like you know what you want and you're just going after it.
Hmm.
And then I feel like when it comes to being quote unquote submissive, I feel like it is still control. Like if it's proper submissiveness. Because if you're being forced, I don't think you're just being forced. Like that's coercion. That's problematic. People go to jail for doing things like that. But when you're being submissive, I think it should be like an active choice of I want to listen to this person. I'm choosing to let like my partner lead in this. And yeah, I think similar to you, like in my relationship, it's
Yeah.
certain things, okay, you got this, certain things I got this, and we play to our strengths and weaknesses. But
Yeah, you saying that makes me think of something that I told my boyfriend once because I noticed I and I'm putting this in my next like coaching program, and it's the difference between homey and groupie energy. It's a silly metaphor, but it's like the homey is like someone who like has mutual respect. You're a leader in a field, they're a leader in a field, and then you guys are coming together and like sharing experiences. You're on the guest list and you get the free ticket. You are invited to the thing as like an honored guest or VIP, so you're there supporting them, but you're not there. Whereas to me, like the homie energy is like you always get invited to their things, but you're never VIP. They just expect you to pay to play. You have to drop the groupie energy in order to become a homie. Like we want to be homies and treated as homies. Those are the friendships you want. And then that's how you become a leader, stay a leader, and then stay well connected and networked, regardless of, going back to us talking about how we grew up, regardless of what your mother did, what your father did, how they grew up, how you were raised, like you can totally bypass all of that just if you're seen as a leader, if you're taking charge, and it doesn't have to be all the time.
yeah, that's so good. Because, like, I agree, but then I do think a lot of people, myself included, suffer from imposter syndrome to where we end up looking like the groupie. So, any advice on how to, like, shake that off to be the homie, you know?
I mean, I can give an example even like the other day, like when I go to this dance studio that I go to, like for some reason, whenever I'm walking in, I always get nervous when they ask which class I'm going to. And I always like stutter, give like a funny answer because it's something I'm new to, right? Even though all of my friends are like advanced dancers connected to the studio, like I've met the owners, like I've hung out with them, like I'm part of the group, but I still get intimidated when I go to these events because I'm a beginner. And so I think it's natural when you're a beginner at something to feel that. And I just think that the more you do it, so I think it's not necessarily like avoiding feeling like an imposter or feeling like you're new, but to me, it's about I like to reframe and I like to see it as like, yeah, I'm just learning something new here or hanging out in environments where I already know something, so I feel comfortable.
It's important because, again, like, yeah, you may feel like an imposter the first time, but the next time you'll just get stronger and stronger. But I also wanted to talk about, like you even said, you can kind of notice yourself shrinking. Like, how do you notice? Because I worry about the people who maybe don't notice, or I think I'm in the camp where I start to notice, but I'm still working on like not shrinking, or because like sometimes you establish, I don't know, like a relationship, or kind of like this person is so used to being in charge and I'm so used to letting them. And then one day I just roll in like, no. And I feel like that
Yeah.
shift is so
Well,
weird.
so I believe is like if you shift it within yourself, either the people around you will shift to this new reality that you're forming in the physical, because the spiritual or mental reality gets externalized out. And so you're totally right. And like you can bend, and some people might run away, and some people might stay. And that's okay. If that's what's your desire and what's meant for you, what's meant for you will come. And so sometimes people do shift with you. It's not always like everyone's going to run away. I think that's a common fear that like I'm going to change and I'm going to lose everything. It's a natural fear. So yeah, that's the first thing is just like um realizing that you can bend, you can change, you're allowed to change, and that those around you that are meant will change with you or not. Like I think of an example where like I had last year, or not last year, a while ago. I worked at this company where like my colleagues were making like 30 to 50 grand a month doing the same thing I was doing. They were just taking a higher volume of appointments. And the culture was great. We did these trips twice a year. The CEO was from Kelowna and he like lives in Hawaii now. And I loved the company, the product, but I was burnt out. Like I was stressed. I was working a lot. And I told him when I got promoted that like I wanted to work part-time in the role. And like it wasn't about like the way that you were judged on the role was based off of the ROI you had on the amount they spent on your ads, not necessarily the total amount that you brought in. So I wanted to just have the same ROI as the people that were working full time. And he just didn't honor that. He threw me in. I was like working full time. I got totally burnt out for a month and then inevitably got laid off because he fired 25% of the sales team. And he just was like, look, like, the company culture is shifting and you're not in alignment with the volume of work I want you to do. Not that I was like terribly underperforming. So the point is, I was like, oh my God, I was heartbroken for a minute. It took me 3 months to accept that, like, I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm not cut out for this role, like having this crisis of faith about my career. And then finally I accepted it, opened up my LinkedIn that I was open to work. A bunch of recruiters reached out to me because I have like a good resume in my field. And then I ended up getting a job where, like I said, I now work 2 hours a day. I make great money and I'm not stressed about it. And now I'm like, I have too much free time, but I ended up getting what I wanted. And I thought when this all happened that it was happening to me and it was bad that I got let go of this great company with this culture. But really, that wasn't what happened. I ended up getting what I wanted, taking the control back, having something that's aligned. And now, do I wish I worked a little bit more? Sure, but now it's years later and I'm in a different mindset, a different space. I'm more mature and even better at my job. And now I might have capacity for something like that if I wanted to. Now I believe that I can make that much money as well, but then I just, it wasn't a fit. And so, yeah, that's what I mean about like reality shifting for me. At the time, it felt like I was losing everything, but that wasn't really how it was.
Wait, so do are you one of those people who believe everything happens for a reason? Because I mean, that was what I would say, like God looking out, blessing you. But yeah, like, do you have that
Yeah.
mindset that,
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's just a choice, right? If I think that things are happening to me or not in my favor, I end up feeling sad or miserable or stuck or trapped or like I can't control or move towards my desires. Versus when I just say, even with my injury right now, like on one side of things, my entire life has changed. I completely slowed down. Like I can't go to loud environments, I can't go to workout classes, I can't travel, where I used to be like relying on traveling all the time. Like always going to fun different workout studios so I could like kind of like overeat, like go, just when you go out to eat and a meal's like 1,200 calories, I could do that and then just like work out the next day and it didn't matter. Whereas now when I like I'm like landlocked and bound, it's like completely forced me to rethink reality and how I shape my life. So I could look at this as like being a victim and just being stuck and let the injury get worse. I could keep eating how I used to eat and I could gain 1 or 2 pounds every week because of overeating, right? But instead, I decided to take control and be like, maybe this is like the universe or life telling me to like redirect and like treat my body better and get to know my body more. And so now it's taken time, but now I like just generally eat way less and I'm comfortable with that. Like I do walks instead of runs. Like instead of going to the gym, I do like a short workout and then yoga so that my heart rate stays down at home and like, you know, eventually, my goal is to get back to going to the gym again and traveling again in the next 3 to 6 months, and I'll get there. But like, yeah, I could look at it as just being like terrible and gain all this weight and get more unhealthy and just end up being on a bunch of medications. Or what I've done is I've taken control and it has been expensive. I've had to invest in MRIs and blood tests and things like that to get like a baseline of what to work from, of working with physical therapists. Those can be expensive as well. I've spent quite a bit on this, but to me, it's worth it versus the alternative of like falling victim to it and like losing myself.
yeah, because like we keep saying, health is wealth, and what I'm hearing is change isn't always bad. And again, as long as you have that perspective. So I'm hoping that this episode is going to change someone to take control of their life. But yeah, I guess for you, like, what exactly does it look like to, well, wait, we just said we shouldn't be taking control. That's aggressive language. Hold on. Like, what's the point of this? Is how
No,
they
no, no.
can.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to be like, don't use that language. It's just
No.
like, for me, I get really intentional with like the linguistics that I use just because I was taught like the power of that. And even
Yeah,
like when I hear taking, like that feels aggressive,
exactly.
right? And I work in marketing, right? So it's not necessarily like to the average, like to someone who's not like deep in linguistics or marketing, you're not going to consciously recognize like you just hear
Mhm.
taking and you're like taking. But like when you realize like how deep that word can go and like what it actually means, I feel like so like what's the word, like millennial or Gen Z right now, and I'm just like policing language. That's not what I mean, but it does hit you. It does hit a chord in you that we might not consciously recognize. Like I'm trying to think of another word that I use when I think. Um, there's a phrase I say that I say differently than people, and I can't remember it right now. And someone asked, they're like, "Oh, are you saying that intentionally?" And I was like, "Yeah," but I'm not remembering what it is. But anyway, that's why I said that, not to be like we don't use the word taking here, but because it's so important to think about how those things
Yeah.
impact our mindset.
Because it really does. And to your point, I never thought about it before this. because taking, and like we were already talking about like the patriarchy, how it, I do feel like they have just taken and, well, yeah, they have taken people's rights and things like that. So I don't even want to say taking control, maybe gaining control
Sure,
or
and
like,
you could like the word taking, and that could be good for you and your brand, and just not be in alignment with mine. Like for instance, let's say you had a super empowering business, which you do, right? But like, let's say you created like I don't know, like a course from this, or have like a all these things, and you were like, take back your life. Like for a lot of people, that would feel really good. Like it's not that that's something. It's not that it's a necessarily bad. It's just when I would say it, I just would use a different word. But it's not that it's necessarily bad. So I just wanna, yeah, yeah.
no, thank you for saying that. Cause yeah, I really was about to be like, no, we have to like change everything. But again, we can
Yeah.
take it back. Hold on, we're gonna have to do another episode called The Take Back. And it's like, what do we need to take back? But anyways, I guess just like, well, first let's start with what it feels like to you, like how you notice yourself shrinking or what that
Mm.
could look like for those who
Oh yeah, I think
aren't aware.
yeah, we were briefly talking about this earlier before I trailed off, and like
Oh, okay.
the easiest like present moment thing is always like breath, posture,
Mm.
movement. Like the easiest example, and this is just like for anyone to do, like I know I've said this like a million times today, but like notice how you react when you're walking down the street and people are near you. Especially people that are like black or brown or like non-white, and how you may or may not shrink. Like one of the things that pisses me off so much is like on the sidewalk when people are like walking in the wrong place, you know what I mean? Like if you're on the right side and they're not, and like and they don't move. And that would make me so angry. I was like, who are you to like walk in my lane towards me and not move and make me move for you? Like I think there was like a someone who wrote a book on like taking back the sidewalk. It was like a black woman's perspective or something. I never read the book, but like yeah, it always just makes me so mad. That's like one example. The other thing is like breath. And so you're there's something called heart rate variability, and these are things I had to learn on this journey of getting healthier. And so like whenever you're under stress, your heart rate variability, so in between each breath, it's not exactly like the same amount of seconds. It shifts by milliseconds. So it's not like like if you're counting your breaths for 1 minute and you have like your resting heart rate is 60 breaths per minute. In between those breaths, it's not exactly 1 second or whatever. It can change. And so you want a high heart rate variability. And if you don't, that means your body's under stress. And so because of this injury, my heart rate variability can be really low, which is not good. It means my body's not recovering from stress. And so one of the things you can do to retrain that is breath work. And then going back to control and being aware of your environment, breath is what controls your heart rate, and people can sense if you're in a stress state. They did a study, I forget who it was, so like I'm really bad at quoting the exact studies, but they did this study about like women that were around really anxious or stressed men, and they were really turned off, like super unattracted to them. They could feel when a man was stressed, and they were like, absolutely not. Didn't matter if they were like attractive or not. And like I can feel that. Like if my partner's in a stress state, I'm like, ew, get away. Like it's a lot to handle. And so and obviously I love him, but like I'm just using an example. But like for example, going back to that stress state. So heart rate variability, I was talking about it from the perspective of I learned it because I had the injury, and then when your heart rate variability is unaligned, people can feel that you're in a stress state, and it makes you naturally less attractive, less dominant, less assertive. So both of those things are important. It's your posture and your breath are the easiest ways to become aware of where you're at now. See how you're interacting with other people, but the biggest thing I'd recommend is do the test or notice how you act when you're walking. Do you shift slightly? Do your shoulders hunch a bit? And then if you want to change it, start doing breath work and start doing posture work.
Wow. I like this because it's so easy and practical. I feel like other things would be like, oh, well, see, you have to speak louder and you have to do this and that. And because I feel like when I try to do those, like for me, I've always been told I need to be more confident. I need to speak louder. And so I'm like trying to do all these things and it just feels fake and it's not working because it's not authentic. And then even to that, I kind of realized like, no, I still have a power, even if my voice is soft spoken, because that means everybody else around me needs to shut up and they need to lean in to
So
hear
your
me.
tone is more important than the words you say. So like there's like three different types of like common I mean there's a lot of tones, but there's like commanding statements, questioning statements, and then I don't know if I forget the third one, if it's neutral or I don't know, there's like three most common, and how the way your voice goes up and down during a sentence or the way you say something shifts how people respond. And so it's more important that you have solid posture, that your breathing is regulated, and that your tone is a certain way. And that's what's going to make you more dominant, more attractive, more assertive, whatever. I call it subtle dominance. Like I'm all about being like sure on paper I've done all these things, but I've never done any of these things hustling. In fact, when I had the opportunity to do it to hustle, I didn't like doing it. Like I've never gotten anything through like pushing my way to the top. I don't maybe I am competitive and I don't see it. Like I love to be like I love my dreams and I'm the best dreamer. I was thinking about this morning. Like there are areas I'm competitive, but like I've never been trying to like I don't know. It's yeah. So let's say subtle. I like the term subtle dominance versus like being aggressive.
Yeah, I like that too, but now I'm thinking of because I've met certain men who
Yeah.
do kind of have this, and I would call it arrogance because once I kind of got to know them like a little bit more, it's like, oh, you're full of nothing. Like you're again like presenting as if you're confident and cocky, but you're really not, you know what I mean? And I guess like I'm not sure what the question is in that. Like, do
Well, when
you
you, I think
mean,
I know there wasn't a direct question, but when you say that, what I think is about like how I relate to people versus like who I do and don't relate to, and like who I am attracted to, who's attracted to me, versus like who annoys me or who is acting like that and not a good fit. I relate to people based off of what's just magnetized to me or what I'm magnetized to and letting that be. If there is someone who's acting that way, or I just ignore those people, right? It's like, that's not my person. It's like, I don't even think about it. I'm just like, okay, he can go act like that with someone else. That's how I try to approach things being magnetic, being magnetized. And if I am around a guy like that, realizing what am I doing to attract this, or should I just walk
mm,
away?
wow, but we have to talk about that. The what is it quote? It's people treat you how you allow them to treat you. How true is that statement? Because I hear that and I'm like, okay, so you're blaming me for like misfortune, but on the other side, I'm like, well, maybe I am putting out a nervous energy out there or energy that says, hey, walk all over me. And I'm trying to
Yeah,
like
I mean,
get
both are
that back.
true, right? It's always a yes and. So it's always like it is true that like I can take accountability and like I can be like, why am I attracting this? And it can also be true that it was really annoying that he was pushing me off my spot on the dance floor, you know? In the moment, it could be really annoying that he like ordered a drink in front of me and like I like that was just rude. Like both can be true in the same sense that like although I am very much like create your own life, follow your desires, like, you know, all these things, at the same time, I do understand that, like, as someone who is a brown, black, however you want to describe me, woman, like, I do sometimes feel that people have a narrative that they place on me, and some people don't. But what I have learned, especially from my partner, if he listens to this, he'll like this. But one thing he does is he really finds a way to bring out the best in people, even if he's he's a really good reacher. Like he will see the best in someone and only allow that side to be seen. Or sometimes I can be like, why were you like doing that? Like this person does this behind the scenes, like, and he just doesn't see like whatever. We don't need to get into how or why, but the point is he's good at bringing out the best in people. And the reason I was saying that is because I think we can choose to like sometimes see the worst in people or be like, if I'm confident, if I know that even though I'm brown, I'm powerful, if I know that even though I'm black, I'm this or whatever, I'm going to attract people that respect me beyond that like cultural narrative or how their parents view them or whatever. So that's what I like to see. Like I work in finance. I work with like old white men all day and I love it. And I have a great like close percentage on the product that I sell. And like I have no problem doing it. Where someone else might be like, oh my gosh, like even we have people that use our system that are black and have great results with like old rich white people because we have like a kind of like a luxury or premium product. And so yeah, to that point, it's like it is all about the mindset, and that doesn't dismiss systemic issues and problems that still exist, but you can find your way out of it.
Mm. Because that was one of the questions that I think you answered. Like, I do think, unfortunately, a lot of minority groups, and I'd include like women and obviously like black and brown people and anyone else, it's like you do feel like you can't take control or you can't have power. But it's like, no, you can. And I think, like you said earlier about that subtle dominance, it's just that thing of even when someone is trying to throw you off your game or whatever, or, steal your joy from you, like as long as you kind of still have that joy and it's still confident in yourself, I'm like, you're winning. Obviously I want vengeance. I'm like, oh, I want to like punch those people. But again, you just being you and breathing, I think that's having control, right?
Yeah, and one of the things that's really common with like spiritual communities is like everyone has this shared vision of like we're all gonna buy a plot of land together and like build a community and it's gonna be beautiful. And like it's just not. That's not the case. But like it never ends up being like this. But like the point I'm trying to make with that is like we all want to have this like utopia. Like we all have our own version of what utopia would be, where we're all equal and all this. And that's like, well, if we actually explore that, that ends up being like communism, right? Or so like, and then it's like, well, how did that go? Or like, if we actually explore that, that ends up being like, okay, now all these people are in this plot of land and they are food insecure and they're unhealthy and they're just living in survival. How is that going to go, right? So there's always a flip side to like what we think in our minds is a utopia. Instead, we can just accept that like this is the way it is. Like I can change what I can change. And this is something I learned when I was really young in like a entrepreneurial training thing that I was like indoctrinated to. It's called CIA, control, influence, accept. So like control what you can control. Like I can control my posture. I can control my breathing. I can control what I eat. I can control when I go to bed, whether or not I fall asleep right away, right? But I can control those things. I can influence those around me, and then I can accept what I cannot change. I cannot change wars going on across the world, right? I cannot change that. So instead of getting really anxious about the things I cannot change, I can accept them. Instead of wanting to control people around me and feeling like frustrated that I can't, just accepting that I can influence them and controlling myself. If we're talking about, now I am using control, but I'm using it in the framework of CIA. So that's my like control. Going back full circle, um, taking control, I would say for me is finding desire. But if we're talking about the word control in general, I can control my posture, my breath, my tone, what I say, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I love that because I was gonna say I feel like we did kind of shift. I think one was kind of going after our dreams, like that control, but then also like I guess we're not controlling exactly how people see us or perceive us, but I kind of
Definitely.
felt like we were, just with the posture and kind of like we're gonna stand tall and then
Yeah.
make people move around us. But I guess the question is more so like how important is having control, whether it is like how people are perceiving us versus us having to go after a dream. Like, do we have to?
I mean, it's your life. I'm not here to say what you can or cannot do, right? But um, you could take a tantric approach and say like the tantric approach to life is just like whatever happens, happens, whatever goes, goes. And that can go down a really dark. I don't believe anything's good or bad, but it can go down a really interesting path if you have that like screw it mentality. Or you can, be shaped by religious views and like philosophies. Like there's a lot of ways to like go about life. So if you are someone who like considers themselves submissive and you like being that, then like be that. If you're someone who likes being dominant and you are that, like be dominant. It's more so about like what makes you feel good. And like I always go back to, you know, having explored so much and having experienced so much, creating my own frameworks. And my framework is always like, am I healthy? Yes, no. Or in what areas do I need to be more healthy? That's number one focus. Am I wealthy? And again, that's going to be relative. Some people have family wealth and they have a certain level of stability within themselves and their family structure. Some people don't, and that shapes your view on reality. So then it's like, am I comfortable where I'm at financially, or do I constantly feel like I'm living paycheck to paycheck or not reaching my desires? And then the third thing is always for me, do I have community? And then, yeah, like I was saying before, it's like those three things are to me what's important regardless of the archetype that I'm currently being, whether I'm being submissive or dominant, whether I'm in an active state, a passive state, or a neutral state, those things all kind of just are part of the rhythm of life.
That's so true. Because, yeah, life, I think in one season I was probably trying to be dominant. The other season's like, I'll just be submissive. But, like, you keep saying, like, every part of it will shape you. And, yeah, as long as you're healthy and I would hope happy and joyful, like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like that sounds very blah. If that makes sense, it's just like, whatever.
Well, even like to me, the definition of submissive and dominant is like maybe different than yours, or maybe it is the same. But
Mm.
like to me, like when I think of submissive dominant, I think of like a sub-dom relationship. I think of like not necessarily in the bedroom or like a sexual environment, but I think about how that plays out, how that those archetypal dynamics would play out in a business relationship, boss, assistant. I think about how it plays out when you're like, my partner planned the trip, I get to lay back and chill, right? Like it's not necessarily like something that's good or bad. Like I love when someone plans a date night and I don't have to do anything. Like sometimes it is fun to like be the assistant and learn from someone. Like it doesn't have to be all the other things that come with it. And so I think that there's just like a time and place for those archetypes, but being submissive or dominant, I think we talked about this briefly before too. It's like being submissive or dominant doesn't have to mean you're a leader or not a leader. You can be a submissive leader. I don't think that they're exclusive. Like you can be like the head of something, the creator, but also like um, someone else can be running the show. Like you can be a founder, but like you can say, hey, you run the marketing, you run the sales, you run the customers, and like I'm just gonna sit back and be submissive to what you tell me to do. And then but they're still making the most money. Right. So that's an example of someone in leadership that's submissive. It you can just feel once you start like playing with the archetypes and releasing any like shame, guilt, or fear around what it means to be submissive or dominant, you just start to notice it.
I love that because I think I am a bit more submissive and like relaxed. And it's crazy because sometimes I find myself in leadership roles and I'm like, I don't want to be here. Like, I just wanted to relax. So, thank you for saying, like, I can be a submissive leader. But why do you think there is such a negative connotation around submissiveness and like a positive one about being bold and taking control and being loud?
Yeah, I think it's just the American narrative. Like I'm in Canada now, but we're both from America, right? It's like the American narrative of being a capitalist and always wanting more and more and more and more. And like, I instead like to look at it as like human design. There's manifestors, and those are the people that just have a strong willpower and can achieve and create like effortlessly, kind of. Then there's manifesting generators, which have to listen to the collective and then create. And then there's generators, which have the energy for the creations, but don't necessarily have you still have there's still like the individual level of having willpower, active, passive, neutral, but then there's also the energy field that you have. And so for example, I'm a manifesting generator. I believe I am. That's what I was told that I am. If we want to look at it from this framework, and like in that I can create and have willpower to create in the universe, but only from the collective, not from my own ego, whereas manifestors can just create. And so I think it's just that those people that could just create and bypass things, we look up to them because it can seem like the easiest path. You're like, wow, you just decided and you got it, and now you're a big boss and you got the money and the whatever. Or for a woman, it's like, wow, you just like magnetize that wealthy man, and now you're just laying back at those luxury resorts. But it's like it's not always what it seems, and also everyone has their own energy field, and it's just the experience that they have. Like the person that just gets everyone to bend to their will might miss out on like what it feels like to be part of a community and like having unlimited energy, like you know or whatever, right? Like I'm really good at starting ideas, but I wonder what it's like to really just be the type of person that can really work at things and stick with one thing forever. Whereas like as a manifesting generator, I like to like shift to new things all the time. And so I flirt with the idea of, oh, what would it be like to be so committed? So like we're always gonna wonder what it's like, but I think like we were talking about going back to the original point, it's like yeah, it's just the most common narrative, but it doesn't have to be the one that you live, and you can reframe it and figure out what works for you.
Mm, I love that. And that makes me happy because, like, no matter who you are, it's like you have a purpose and you have strengths. And yeah, you may have weaknesses, but that's why there's other people to help strengthen those weaknesses to like figure it out. So, again, thank you so much. And I've pretty much asked everything that I wanted to ask, but I always like to end my podcast with this question. And
Sure.
it's if you were to lose your voice, tomorrow, what's the last thing you want people to hear from you?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, I like to say you'll get your voice back. I don't want to be like morbid about it, but
You
you
saying
know.
that makes me want to like my mind immediately goes to like saying something really funny, like just like making a really I can't think of it now, but rather than it being like something serious, like you are worthy. I just say something really ridiculous and funny. I think like I don't know, something like that would land culturally. Like
Oh,
that's what I would say. There's
I
like a funny joke.
I had someone, she literally was just like, I just want Pony by Genuine to play. And it's like
Yeah, I love that.
so, so random. But yeah, because it's just a lot. And I think words are powerful, like we said before. So it's like, well, geez, if I only have like a few more words to speak, like what would it be? But making people laugh is important, you know?
Yeah, to like to the point, it's just like remembering that it's like not that serious. Like I love the question, right? It's like, oh, if you just had one last thing to say, and I would just be like, well, is what it is. You know, maybe that's my phrase. Is what it is.
Put your glass on. Put your glass on. Get your boss on behind the glass.
Mwah.